Running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans, welcome to Talking in Ovals. How is everybody doing out there on this Thursday, April 16th, 2026, episode number 186? I'm back, Dave. Hi.
You're back with a new haircut.
I am. It's gone. The locks are gone. The facial hair is gone. Hey, I donated the hair. So I
There
did
you go.
something nice there. I donated it. The mother-in-law is a beautician and she was able to hook
Sweet.
that up and figured with the hair gone, might as well go back to basically Dave. You knew me before all my hair. This is what I usually look
This is
like.
high school Alex here, man.
Yeah,
Minus
yeah.
the little gray there.
A lot of gray, not even a little. There's a ton of gray going on here.
So I got two shout outs really quick that I have to get
Sure.
to. First of all, happy birthday to my beautiful daughter, Lucia. She turns 12
Happy birthday, Lucia.
today. Daddy loves you. Have a great night. And I'm pumped for tomorrow night. My old high school coach, Mark O'Leary, and Coach Ed Heffernan over at Toms River South are getting inducted into the Toms River Hall of Fame. We have probably about over a couple hundred people coming. I got people flying in from all over the country. It's going to be an awesome event. And I'm just so excited to pay homage to those men who helped, create me, and to just, for so many of us, just were such a positive influence in our life. So congratulations, Mark O'Leary and Ed Heffernan. Well deserved.
Well, yeah, well deserved. Some legends in the sport. Now, you said Tom's River Hall of Fame. Does this count all three high schools? Is there
It does.
one combined? See,
It
that
is.
to me is even more epic, right? Because that
It
means
is.
that you have to be head and shoulders in your time of
Correct.
what other coaches, and as much as I'm a Manchester guy and Tom's Rivers can kick rocks collectively, it is tough with all the competition between northeast and south. Like there
Listen, we
is
have a very
so good.
feisty alumni group. I remember when they first retired, we went to board meetings and we got the track named after them. So that was the first step. We just want to pay homage to these great men who really did so much for so much of us. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's no way. I mean, once Griff decides to hang it up, we need to rename the track after Griff because they
agreed.
just secured 41-0 in dual meets and their sixth straight division title over at
Manchester, yep.
Manchester. So
41-0.
the little school that could continuing to go along. There are no down years in that division for Manchester. Just reloading. So congrats to them as well. I saw that.
Absolutely.
Coach Griffin then blocked it up, so that was awesome. All right, so last Monday I was not here, but you had the privilege of
Awesome.
talking to Andy Martin, and I also want to thank Lyle Smith. That's why I'm repping today, blood, sweat, and spikes. Thank Lyle for filling in, doing guest hosting duties. I mean, he replaced me better than I could ever even be here for that conversation.
You should just host
He was
from
the perfect
here on
guest
out.
host.
Yeah.
I mean, he should replace me. I'll just go. I'll produce. I'll be in the background. I'll produce and bring things up, and just let you and Lyle go because you guys are encyclopedias.
Andy Martin was awesome. Obviously, growing up in the New Jersey area, he was a name that I heard about forever, running at North Hunterdon. It was just an honor to talk about him. He's done so much in high school, after high school, working for USA TF, working for Boulder, getting that great race done every year. It was awesome. Definitely a bucket list guest for me.
So this week we have another fantastic guest lined up, and we want to bring him in. He is the founder and director of the Garden State Track Club, and still a pretty damn good runner in his own right. Chuck Schneekloth, how's it going, Chuck?
Hello, good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We are excited to bring you on. So, we usually do a section where we get PRs, which I am going to start hounding you for now because I see all the time on Instagram you are just toting all the Garden State Track Club personal bests and stuff. I want you also to send them to us so we can start giving them shout outs as well because that's one thing we do. I've been sad to not have seen Coach Figueroa.
It's still early.
It's still early.
It's still early spring, so
I'm just so used to Coach Figueroa just consistently sending it to us.
Stuff, I know.
So send us your PRs if you haven't, already. Please do that. Email at talkingandovals@gmail.com. It's that easy. But Coach, we're going to start off with where we start with all of our guests. When did you get the spark to pursue running? Not necessarily when you started running, but when did you sit there and it kind of clicked like, I want to pursue this? Because you ran at Rutgers where, it's Division I, Major D1, Big East at the time, which was a major conference. So when did you get the spark to be a runner?
That's a layered question, probably for anybody. There was really never one moment where it was this light switch that went on.
Yeah.
But I will say that a few pivotal moments were certainly watching my old man run 5Ks, and I watched him run the New York City Marathon. And I just remember being around this community and people were high-fiving each other, and it just felt so supportive and positive and upbeat. So that was certainly a pretty big thing for me. I think I actually went to Rutgers to play soccer, and I played.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I played in 1995, I missed it. Like, I missed running, and the soccer team was fine, but it just wasn't track. So I met Chris Greer and Steve Geiger,
my old teammates.
And, quick question though. Were the uniforms at Rutgers for soccer better than, because I remember back then in the 90s, they were using that friggin' awesome Scarlet Knight everywhere. Like the actual, like the Rutgers helmets had the Scarlet Knight, and it was just so cool. Now it's just a block R, which is fine. But man, they got to bring back actually having the Scarlet Knight places.
I got to say, I think Rutgers has got, I think the Rutgers athletics department has got a lot of things to be worried about right now. And I'm not sure if the uniform is in the top.
You got to look good, okay? Got to look good.
I mean, I'm a proud alumni and all, but I'm sure you guys have read about some of the stuff that's come out recently.
I mean, a lot of colleges in the athletics are struggling. It is, there's financial issues, not just athletic wise, all around in a lot of schools right now. It's very tough. Yeah. It is very tough in that college landscape. But yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, just to finish that thought, probably the second big thing was just, the spark for me was not having it. Like, I was pretty serious in high school, but
love that.
I decided I was going to go all in on soccer, and I met two guys on the track team, and they said, "Why don't you walk on? Why don't you just forget the soccer team and just come do this?" And here we are.
So what was that like walking on? Because I think this will be a good experience for anyone that maybe is considering doing that, right? Maybe you're sitting there and you want to run post high school and you want to go to a school and try and walk on there. What was that process like? Was it a little bit easier because you were already in the athletics department? What was that like?
I mean, it's like apples and oranges. I mean, the internet was just like coming around in 1995, So, I mean, I think it helped having the men's soccer coach come to bat for me, to Mike Mulqueen.
That's always nice.
I think it helped having my high school coach come to bat for me, to Mike Mulqueen. But this is going to be eventually probably a really good segue into, I think, the conversation you guys are excited to have about relays and all that stuff, is because, look, it was easier then. Like, I was a 159 guy in high school. And now, I mean, I have a 140, 154 guy. He can't find a roster spot, right?
Well, there's so many roster limits now. It's crazy with everything going on now, Nancy. But like, if you don't run 410 now, you're not even getting to like Rutgers. Like, it's crazy the amount of roster limits and the amount of things that people get to. It's a whole different world. It's not even, and then you have NILs. It's a whole different ballgame. I don't know if I'm not sure if a kid can't even walk on at like a Big Ten school now, because they have so many roster limits that I would doubt that that's even a possibility at this time.
It's such a different world. It's such a different world.
It
so is. It wasn't all that. It wasn't all that hard then.
Right.
But yeah, I mean,
I walked on too. Like, I didn't get a scholarship. I just decided that I wanted to run when I got there. It wasn't
now with the guy like you have 154, like we said, back in the day, you ran a 154, you were going to a decent school, right? Maybe not one of the top echelons, right? You weren't 151, like, okay, whatever. Have you had the conversation with some of your athletes about looking at NAIA, looking at JUCO? Because there's full rides, there's money at those schools. And I feel like the trickle down is going to be fantastic, because people don't realize that the NAIA is competitive and they have money to give in all sports. Like, it's a viable option.
Yeah, and I think a big part of this sort of thing is just educating families and educating parents about what the options are. I mean, everyone wants to go to Penn State and Oregon, and then it's like, okay, well, let's kind of, let's consider all the doors, to your point. So yeah, I mean, we've certainly talked about that, but really, my only point here was, it was just a different world walking on as a 159 guy versus versus now,
100%.
which really does define and bring color to, I think some of the conversation around, the sport has changed, right? Like in 25 years, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Yet so much of the sport at the high school level has not changed. Like county relays and dual meets and state relays. Like I'm not here saying that those are bad, but like at what point do we acknowledge that some of the bigger shifts in the landscape in college track may really need to impact the landscape at the high school level?
See, I think there is something to that, right? And that's a conversation. I know Dave and a lot of coaches disagree with me. I like the dual meets, even as an athlete, right? Because if you were one of the better athletes, you didn't race in that dual meet. You learned how to race, right? You were learning how to actually run. Okay, coach, I know I can win this race. I don't have to go run 4:30 to go win this race. I need to learn how to run a 4:50 and go and run well. And I think it teaches you things if you're smart and your coaches do it well. And it also lets the rest of your roster race.
I mean,
and
I know-
you can then train up those younger kids as well.
I know here, like we don't even have dual meets anymore. It's just
I know, I hate
one divisional meet. I like it better because it's just less racing. So I like that aspect better. But yeah, I don't know. There has been a lot of changes. Part of me likes the fact that high school is still kind of pure and young and innocent for certain kids. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a shift. Because getting into college is so much harder of a task now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting point.
And also with that point though, with the relays, I think from maybe a larger school perspective, maybe yours, you carry a little more weight there, maybe some of like the faster schools, because okay, you're not emptying out the roster as much with those, right? You're going to win those races. I think with some of your smaller schools, with your less competitive kids and stuff, you're going to load up on those relays, right? Because in the state relays, you can have a whole bunch of things. You can let some different kids go. You can let that sophomore that's champion at the bit jump in and maybe run in a relay when if they were the limits on the individual races, they're not racing, right? Because they're not top 3 or whatever. So I think there is value to having those county relays and those state relays, because I also don't think coaches take them all as serious. They take them as opportunities to give these other kids chances to do some stuff.
So I've had the privilege now of kind of zooming out a little bit and not necessarily, so it means that maybe I'm not as tuned into some of the pieces of the puzzle that high school coaches are. But, when you zoom out and you're working with, say, like maybe I don't know, coaching 50 or 60 kids from 50 or 60 different schools, you suddenly really appreciate what a wide range of perspectives and approaches, strategies, and experiences that these high school coaches have, right? Not judging any of them, not saying they're better or worse, but I think it's easy to fall into the trap of assuming that every coach or most coaches think like you or think like us or whatever the case is. There's a lot of coaches out there that just say, we're just going to race you to death. There's a lot of coaches that say
it's an old school mentality, right?
Well, but it's out there, right?
Yeah.
And then kids don't progress and then they get hurt and then they leave the sport. There's a lot of coaches out there that put relays ahead of individual events. There's a lot of coaches that say, well, points are more important than people. Right. And, maybe none of the 3 people in this conversation look at it like that. But, I think the reality is there are coaches who are going to have some kids race the mile, the 2 mile, and the 800 at every meet that they can because they're going to score the most amount of points. But then you've got the state of Oregon who have created legislation that says that's illegal. You're not allowed to do that because they recognize that there are some people out there that may abuse that sort of an approach, right? So I guess where I'm coming from is not necessarily taking a really hard stance on things, but I think it's important to recognize that there are lots of different approaches to this, and maybe they didn't run in high school, maybe they didn't run in college, maybe they don't know what it's like to run a hard mile, and then you say, well, go run an 8 and a 32, and it's like, well, I just raced 10 minutes ago, right? So it's it's been a fascinating experience for me the last 10 years with our junior elite program developing the way it has, to really appreciate how many different strategies that coaches use out there.
It's true. But I mean, I think that with the relays, there's so many factors. Like, it depends on team. Like, you look at the best teams in the state, they all love running relays. Your CBAs, your Union Catholics, your Westfields, your Alpins, like those kids. Like, if you talk to the guys at CBA, they want to win the DMR at Penn Relays. Like, that's a goal, is these relays. So, like, what do you say to all these teams where these relays are super important, and it's your top kids who want to participate in these events?
So, again, I don't necessarily have like an opinion that
Gotcha.
relays are bad or good. I think it's a reasonable argument to make that sometimes it's a good time, sometimes it's not such a good time. But my question all along has been, like, why do we have county relays? Why do we have the state relays? Like, I coached in Oregon, I coached in California. These things don't exist in other states. And I'm not saying that they're bad, just to be fair. Like, I'm not, I know there's a lot of history and tradition. Like, I recognize all that. But to me, the larger question is, like, when schools are forced to do meets that maybe don't fit their needs at the time. Like, maybe 1 year your high school, you've got a great 4x8. Okay, great. But what happens if you only have 2 800 guys the next year? Why do you got to go to you don't even have a relay, you're just,
like, as a coach, like, you don't have to enter certain, like, you can enter whatever you want. Like, you're not forced to go. Like, no one tells me you have to go to this meet. Like, we choose to go. And I think part of it is a lot of kids really enjoy running the relays. Like, they, like, every guest that we've had on pro, or like, there was like, what was your favorite moment in high school? Relays with my teammates, relays, like Kira D'Amato, like Julie, like, they were all like saying how much that they love running these relays. I think it's great for team bonding. Like, I think definitely you might have a different perspective than the high school coach. You're looking more at the individual kid, whereas, we're looking at our team as a whole and how we can get this team to perform its best. Some years it's strong relays, but you're right. But some years you only have 1 or 2 kids. So I know me as a coach, I might run that kid in an individual, because now at the relay meets, there's so many individual events intertwined within the relay meets. Like, we were at a meet last week. It had all of your relays, but it also had an open mile, an 800, a 400. So I think it depends on your team. And I think, again, you have your goal with your club is to look at these kids as individuals, and that's completely fine. That's what you do. I think us as a high school coach, we're looking more as a whole team. And most of the kids that I asked, they would rather run relays than run some individual races, especially early in the season, because it really gets them a chance to bond and to be with their team. I mean, some of my best moments ever in high school were running on a relay with Chris Greer, with Steve Geiger. Like, those were memories that I'll have way more than I had for any individual race that I ran. So I just think that a lot of kids these days still value the importance of that bond and the relay running with their teammates.
And I also just want to say real quick, I think the disconnect with a lot of this is, especially from your post, is that there isn't like a mandatory season, right? And I think maybe you were under the impression that schools were forced to go to county, schools were forced to go to states. You can enter kids, you can enter meets if you want. No one's forced to go. There's been years where I were there where, a school would have a skeleton crew because they just didn't have the horses to go do it, right? They would bring the kids that they could, or you'd have schools that would just empty out, even though they knew they weren't going to run well, right? They would just sit there and just give an opportunity for their other athletes to run. At times you would roll your eyes and be like, Jesus, okay, we're going to have to wait for them. But, the thing is, I think that's where the disconnect came with, is that there is no mandatory season. No one's forced to go to these relay meets. People choose to go to them.
But I also do think Chuck does have a point that there are a lot of,
the bad coaches exist.
There are great
I'm not going to argue that.
There are bad coaches too,
yes,
as well. But I mean, like, when we were growing up, like, that was just part of it. Like, you had a bad coach. I mean, I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but like, I feel like now, like, I don't know, like, there's so many private coaches clubs, like, it's impossible to, like, you can go online and then have someone coach you for like $100 a week. I just feel like it's different in that sense, that there really aren't bad coaches for any kid who wants to be good. There's a way for them to find a way to be good.
So to take a step back and just talk about the post that we had weeks ago. I think it's fair to say that, like, in the winter season, I think Dave kind of said it yourself, like, the early season you do some relay meets, and then the second half it's kind of more individual based, right? So the thinking was basically like, hey, we're in that first half of the season where there's a lot of relay meets. There's more so than individual meets. And also, to be fair, while I don't coach high school anymore, I've coached plenty of high school. The last time I coached high school was at Highland Park years ago, and we won 2 state titles in Group 1.
That's tough to do.
Well, whatever. But I mean, so, I've got a lot of friends who coach high school. I mean, just putting on meets where we've got 1,500 entries, like, you get to know coaches a good bit. And my experience and my understanding from other coaches I've talked to is that, to your point, maybe you don't run everybody, but you got to bring a skeleton crew. Like, you can't tell your athletic director, we're not going. So then suddenly, and you guys are close to the bubble, but for teams that live 60, 90 minutes away, they're basically, they don't have a whole lot of say over whether or not they go. So they're like, well, if I'm going to go, I might as well make the most of it, because it's going to be a 10-hour time commitment or something like that, right? So the rationale behind the post wasn't necessarily, there's one relay season and it's mandatory, but it's kind of like a wink and a nod, like, you kind of have to go, right? Like, you can't tell your AD, I'm not going to support the county relays or the state relays. And the purpose of this post was simply asking, like, these are the only sorts of meets that we basically mandate. Like, coaches can kind of go to whatever they want to go to outside of that. So really, the fundamental question here is, should this be an option, a genuinely optional thing, where if you have a skeleton crew, then just don't come? Because that doesn't sound to me like it would be in the best interest of your team to drive an hour there, drive an hour back, and get your butt kicked for 3 hours.
See, real quick, I just think that all depends, because I think,
I've never been told by my AD that I had to go to any kind of meet. We usually work it out. Like, say we have one good kid and the other 3 are, we'll run that kid on the leadoff, and say, hey, like, you're going to get your work in on a leadoff. Like, there's ways to make it work. Like, if we're running a DMR, all right, my milers, you're going to run the 1200 today. So yeah, you get in a race with the competition, and the other kids are just going to run their best afterwards. But I don't know. I do see a value in them. Again, 2 different mindsets here. I'm coming from the head coaching perspective. You're coming from the club side, and it's just different. Not saying that I'm right and you're wrong. It's just, we have 2 different perspectives. I know most of the high school coaches that I've talked to, about after seeing your post, were very much like, we love relays. Like, this is what helps build our culture. This is what helps build our whole team. We're not worried about the individuals now. We're worried about getting that culture. When it's time for those kids to run, they'll be ready. Like, I don't see how it hurts a lot of the individuals. I mean, everybody who's supposed to be there at the end of the season is usually there anyway. So I'm just trying to see how you feel that it's hurting the athletes.
Well, it's not necessarily me making a stance. It's more our organization encouraging some deeper thinking about something that's been here for a really long time. Like, this is, and again, this doesn't exist in other places. So,
my thing is, though, it doesn't matter if it doesn't exist in Oregon and California, right? We're in New Jersey. We do things, and if they were to, what's to say that they shouldn't conform to us, right? We're one of the better running schools in the running states as well. So they're big. They have California is gigantic, right? So maybe they have their own reasons. Asking them to do a state relay meet with how massive they are, they don't do a state championship the same way we do because they can't, right? There's a lot of these massive states that New Jersey's small enough where we could do a meet of champs. We could do something, we bring everyone together. You're not going to ask Texas to do that. You're not going to ask Florida. You're not going to ask, because you're going to ask people then to fly in to go run a friggin' state meet in high school, right? Like that. So I think we can't look at other states about how they do things and compare and contrast, because we may do things better than them, but there is something to be said about maybe looking at safety concerns. If you want to bring safety into it, if there's research that shows running county and state relays or having them mandatory and that's overworking, if we could see some research on that, I would be, in, right? Even if there's anecdotal stuff where people are like, no, that putting me in those relays screwed me up in terms of my individuals, I would listen to that. I don't take because other states are doing it. I don't care. We're Jersey.
Well, logical fallacies aside with that argument, can I give you two concrete kids that I work with that might give more color to the conversation?
Sure.
Okay. So again, maybe going back to the original, the beginning part of this debate, or just around the fact that like, hey, there's a wide range of coaches out there, right? Like,
yeah, 100%.
Because Dave, I couldn't agree more. Like, if your best guy run a lead off, if the other three aren't, but there's a lot of coaches that are like, the best guy always runs anchor, and
Sure. But again, back to just not thinking as a coach.
Well, but just, to be fair, there's a lot of folks that think like that. So anyway, one kid, when I first was contacted by him at the end of his junior year, him and his mom were like, I didn't run a single individual race all year long, all winter. He's like, all we did was the 4x8 and the distance medley. And I hate to say it, like, I kind of didn't believe him. I thought he was just being, over the top.
Exaggerating.
I went to his mile split, not a single individual race. Now, he got to run at the Meet of Champions, and that was what the coach valued, right? But like, the question is, how often does that scenario possibly play out? And Dave, I appreciate you saying that, hey, I talk to coaches. I get that. But, it's a tough spot to be in when you're a kid and you're being told like, hey, we got to run another 4x8 because we're trying to qualify. And now we got to run another 4x8. Now we're going to run a distance medley. Like, when do we go to the kids and say, well, what do you want to do?
Well, I mean, any good coach should have those conversations with their kids. But here's what I think. And this is awesome, by the way. Thank you for coming on and talking to us and having a great debate, because that's what this sport needs. We need more talks and debates. Not everybody.
And yeah, I will want to say I appreciate you putting up some of the posts that you do, because it does spark debate, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to have these conversations.
But so most of the kids who go to you, and I don't know this for sure, I would imagine are disgruntled with where they are anyway. Correct?
Well, it's a big phrase. Sometimes they're frustrated. Sometimes they don't have training partners.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they've got a great head coach, but he's a hurdler.
Right.
Like, there's, again,
the focus isn't. Yeah.
So many different scenarios out there that play out. But in this particular case, the kid's like, I want to go to college, right. And by the way, like, he ran 156 indoors this year. One of the reasons why, well, we basically twisted the arm of the head coach to say, you got to give the kid opportunities. Like, he deserves.
What year is he in high school, if you don't mind me asking?
He's a senior now.
Nice.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, so just, it's hard, because I think you've got sometimes a perspective of a coach, which is, we love these are great. And then sometimes the perspective of the kid doesn't align with that perspective.
I will say, if you have a coach that is sitting there and having a kid just only run relays and never run individual races, that's what the coach, right?
Well, especially if they're that good of, I mean, like, your 210 kids, they might only find some familiar stuff, but when you have a kid that good, but my whole thing is this, like, you're getting these kids. So I would think that the kids that you're getting would have those stories and would feel that way, but I'm not sure that represents the majority of high school athletes running for their high school teams. I'm saying, like, kids go to you because they don't enjoy what's going on, or they see maybe a better opportunity. They don't like their coach. So I would imagine that they would have those feelings. But I don't know if that's the consensus for the majority of your high school kids who are having fun, love running on their team, get along with their coach, love their teammates, and run the relay. So I just feel like it's two different sides. Again, not one is wrong or right, but it's like the kids that you get are looking for an out. They're looking for something different and better, and you offer it, which is great. But I don't know if that is the consensus for the majority of kids in high school in the state.
Hard to know, right?
Right.
Very right.
And certainly, I think I do believe that most coaches have their heads and their hearts in the right place, and I do think that they're trying their best. I mean, this isn't a conversation about criticizing our colleagues, but I do think it's worth recognizing that the alignment of a teenager isn't always with the perspective of a coach, and obviously they're young and all that, but so this was a 202 kid before, and now he's at 156. I'm not saying that I'm some incredible coach or anything, but like, he just was given opportunities, which he wasn't getting. And I do think that there is a subset of children that, they don't want to leave their team. They don't want to ruffle feathers. I mean, let's face it, by and large, most track kids are just kind of, nerdy 4.0 kids, right? Like, nobody
Your
wants
distance runners, especially.
Right.
Yes. I've said it all the time here.
We're
Your
all nerds.
sprinters, your jumpers, they're God-given athletes, most of them. Your distance runners are I'm not saying the sprinters aren't, but your distance runners are all your AP kids that are potential valedictorians. Like, that's mostly who they are.
So, I do think that there's a lot of kids out there, and maybe we'll talk about the second example now, but I do think there's a lot of kids in this second example where, she qualified for the Meet of Champions, which is a big deal. And it's a big opportunity when you're young.
Absolutely.
And was told, you got to run the relay. You don't get to run. And by the way, the relay was first. So it's not like, oh, you run your individual race and you're going to screw up our relay, which, by the way, I don't, that's probably.
I don't believe that at all.
But
No,
like,
I think, yes.
This kid wasn't allowed, in a reputable program, wasn't allowed to run her individual race. And I think that happens more than you might realize. And I think that there's coaches out there that, maybe aren't going to own those sorts of decisions publicly. But, I mean, one of the things about our posts, and I'm sure you guys noticed this, is that there were some parents, there weren't any kids, but there were a couple parents and some college coaches that were very open to letting their opinion be known about some of these issues.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I'm not going to say I can guarantee that it goes on. It probably does go on more than we know, because we're not in every single school. We're not having every conversation. It sucks that it does go on. And I do think that's where potentially a place for a club comes in, right? You can come in and take those kids that aren't being trained properly. And if they come to you now, so let's talk a little bit more about the club setting, right? Because I know that there is controversy with track and field clubs, especially when you have clubs that are dipping into the high school. We typically have thought of clubs to either be for younger groups to kind of get them into track,
or older,
and then for post-collegiate, college kids to come back and compete, or post-collegiate
kids who don't go to college,
who don't go to college. But then once you start to dip into that middle school, high school, and you start to now potentially pull kids away from their high schools or do a secondary coach on top of them being on the team, I feel like that's when it gets tricky. So I'm going to give you the floor. What should people know about Garden State Track Club specifically? You don't have to speak for all clubs, but for you and the value that you bring to high school kids, middle school kids, everyone that comes into your club, and why you're necessary. The elevator pitch. I want to hear it.
Yeah. No, it's fair. I live in Somerset with my wife, right down the street from New Brunswick. And down the street, like 600 meters, is a charter school. It's Central Jersey Charter School. It's right by the park. when we first moved here, it just had like a beat up banner. There was a few cars in the parking lot. You know, I mean, it was one of the, I remember telling my wife, we'd run by it. I'm like, I don't know what the hell this thing is, but I can't imagine it being around for much longer. Either way, every year it grows. And now I ran by it today when on my run, and there wasn't a spot empty in the parking lot.
That's awesome.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know what goes on back there. And as someone who used to coach and teach in the inner city in East Oakland, California, like I'm very familiar with charter schools and like their mission and their attempts to basically be another option for families. Right. I mean, I was a public educator for 22 years, but like, and at the time I didn't understand it, but now I do. Like now I understand, like, hey, maybe the big Franklin High School with 4,000 kids, maybe that's not for everybody.
School choice has become a big deal around the country. It's been a very big hot topic for, other conversations, but it's become a big thing.
Yeah. And, like, let's face it, there's going to be sprinters who are going to be told you need to run cross country, and they probably shouldn't, right? Like there's a lot of pole vaulters out there that their English teacher is going on YouTube 10 minutes before practice. Right. I mean, there's a lot of kids that are like out there in the triple jump pit and they don't know what they're doing and their coaches aren't even watching them. So like, what do those kids do? Right. And by the way, if there was no mile 1,600 and 3,200 at the sectional meet, at the state meet, and at the meet of champions, a lot of people would set the NJSIA on fire. Right. But that doesn't happen in the long jump, triple jump. No one seems to really care about that. To me, that's all couched in this conversation of like, kids deserve to, I mean, they deserve to have an even playing field, right? Yeah. Like, long jumpers shouldn't have to not compete for 3 weeks, and teams shouldn't lose state titles because the long jump isn't contested. But anyway, along the same lines, pole vaulters have been going to specialized coaches for centuries.
Yeah, and they're getting bigger and bigger. Those barns are popping up everywhere.
And you know what?
Shot putters too.
Sure. And you know what? Like, if I'm 6'8" and I'm 300 pounds and I want to throw the shot put, and my coach is like, "Hey, man, I was just asked to be here." Like what am I going to do? Right. Yeah. So I think the reality is public education does the best that it can, but it can't help everybody. It just can't. And I think for better or for worse, most high school coaches have a distance running background.
Sure.
So they tend to say, well, you can go to the club coach for pole vault, but I'm going to coach you in the mile, which, they'll probably do a better job in the mile than coaching them in the shot put. But, at the end of the day, like, kids wanting expertise, kids wanting specialization or personalization, I mean, I'm not sure what the argument is against that. Like, kids deserve to get, if you want to hire a tutor, right? So really what our junior elite program is, we're not asking anybody to join. I mean, that's not, you'll never find a DM or a text message where that's happening. You just won't. And look, we put on high school track meets all year round. That would be really bad for business if that's what we were doing.
Right. It's true.
Right? I mean,
very
true. It would be a stupid business model. I mean, if anything, I think my relationship with coaches that I know are very positive. It's the coaches that I've never met or that I don't know where I can't really speak to that. So really, all we are is a charter school. That's it. And if kids want to enroll in the charter school, then you can enroll in the charter school. And, obviously that comes with a balance of like, well, how do we manage this with with our high school team? But,
right.
Look, Kira Monago was 5th in the meet of champions from Columbia High School. Like, she's going to Williams now. She's had it's been a great community for her. The kid that got 5th place in the 400, Christopher Velez from Spotswood High School.
Yep.
I mean, he improved by 2 seconds this indoor season, and a big reason why, he had a community of kids that spoke to him. I grew up in a Group 1 school. There are not a whole lot of people to train with. So like, he's at an automatic disadvantage against East Brunswick and Toms River North when it's like him and 2 other scrawny freshmen and it's 20 degrees outside. How do we level the playing field for that kid? So that, to me, that's the elevator pitch, is we're just another option. And I think kids deserve options.
See, I get that completely, and I agree to an extent. I think the issue that a lot of people have is when these kids are on a high school team, but they're missing high school meets to run for their club team. Like, how do we solve that? Because I feel like that's been an issue. Like, then don't be on the high school team. Like, just be on the club team. Don't even compete if you're not going to be there for your team when your team needs you. That's, again, coming from a high school coach's perspective. Like, why are you even on the team if you're just going to leave and go to a meet for your club when we have a meet for the high school team? Like, to me, it's hard to do both. Like, pick one or the other. But I guess if they just do the club, then they can't compete in the states or the meet champ. So they have to have the high school uniform to compete, even though they're not doing anything with their high school team. They're working out with their club team all the time, but then they're just racing for the high school. Like, to me, that's like, as a coach, I'd be like, no, you're not running for our team because you're never here. You're never with your teammates. Why would I give you a spot over a kid who's at practice every single day when you're not here ever? You're just on your own doing something. So I think that's where this connect is, when they're actually on the high school team, but they're missing high school meets to go to compete for their club.
It's a fair question. I don't think that scenario plays out often. I think what typically happens is the kid and the parent sits down with the coach, and they do some backward planning, and they say, like, here are my goals, and here's the pathway that I'd like to pursue to meet those goals. And I mean, Dave, as much as I don't disagree with what you're saying, like, I do think that, if you're a kid who is on the bubble of going to college or not, well, suddenly then like small decisions, like, do I run an individual race on a bank track against good competition, or do I run all by myself in a relay at a crappy track in Tom's River, which won't go on mile split? You see what I'm saying? I mean,
I
that by 1,000.
I get it.
These scenarios could genuinely impact the lives and the careers of a lot of kids.
So here's the question: then why be on the high school team at all? Just compete for your club. Is it only, like, it almost comes across like the high schools are being used just to run in the state meets, but these kids are never there. They're not practicing with the high school, not doing anything with high school, but they're just the high schools are almost being used for their uniform so that these kids can compete and get their name in the state meet, but they're not a part of the actual team. They're never there.
And quickly, Chuck, just to Dave's point, you mentioned, you're basically a charter school, right? But the difference between charter school and public school versus club and high school, what Dave is saying is, if you go to a charter school, you have nothing to do with the public system anymore, right? You're in that charter school, you do sports with that charter school, you do get some assistance because state mandates those things, but you do things for the charter school. You're not the public school anymore.
Yeah. Look at Blair Bartlett. Blair Bartlett chose to go to Lawrenceville, and she's like, I'm just not going to run in states, and that's fine. That's her choice.
Where if you do the high school plus the club, I could see where that comes from. So it's like there is a little bit of a difference there between the comparison.
Well, okay, so to unpack some of those statements. So one, sure. Blair Bartlett goes to a school that isn't in the NJSIA, so she can't go to the
correct,
state, right? And if you go to a charter school, a magnet school that doesn't offer sports, then you do get
if
funded.
not, yes, agreed. If they don't offer sports, so which not all charters do, but a lot of charters do. They've started to now. A lot of them have definitely started to offer sports.
Like Ajay Wilson, she didn't go to Neptune High School. She went to the specialized school that was close to it, but she was able to compete for Neptune.
Yeah, and there are those scenarios. I agree with that. Yes.
And like Athing Mu didn't run in high school, and Thomas Kessler's not running in college. It's like you could play these scenarios out.
But they didn't do both. They didn't say, I'm going to train with one club and then run for my high school and just kind of I don't know.
I guess my point in putting those two names out there is that I think it just shows that, there just are a lot of different pathways.
Of course.
And by the way, this has proliferated in every sport. I'm sure you guys know that. But
basketball's been the worst for a long time with wrestling. AAU and everything. AAU and wrestling with club. Like it's been it's not like it's track specific. 100%.
Right. Look, my wife is a couple years younger than me, and like she tells me all the time, when she was swimming at Morristown High School down South Jersey, she's like, the team that the serious team was the club team. The high school team was like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with like my friends. But, so, I mean, I think what's hard here for the track community is not recognizing this is just the evolution of sports, right? Like, I think if we continue to make the argument that, well, this is how it always is, this is New Jersey, this is how, I mean, look, if it works for your school, great. But like, I've worked with a lot of kids that they just train with us twice a week, just on the hard days. And then the other days they do their easy runs, or they do their strides, or they lift with their high school buddies. Oh,
and their coach is fine with that? Like their coach doesn't care? Like, I just feel like us high school coaches, like we're not supposed to have any pride. Like we're just not supposed to like say like, no, you're on our team. You're going to run with our guys, or else go to the club. That's fine. Best of luck. Have a great time. But you're not running for our school if you're not working out with us.
And coaches can do that. There's a kid on our group now, and their coach has said that. So she's just, I mean, she really tried to make it work with her team. But she ran 17-12 indoors and was a Nike All-American. Like,
Oh, listen, you guys do a great job. Like
the results are there.
The results are there. I just, it's just a weird that dynamic that it's just, as a high school coach, I don't think that I don't think that's fair to the other kids on the team. It's putting the individual before the team. So like, do you think that that's the route that we should go, is not caring about team aspect, just going for the individual? Like, is that all that matters now?
So look, I think that last post, that was like I think like the big question here really is track a team sport or is track an individual sport? And we could probably talk.
I think it could be both.
We could probably talk for hours.
We can have like a 10-hour podcast
right.
on that, hashing out every single part of it. Yeah.
Right. But I think on a really fundamental level, if you've got a kid who is really good, but has nobody to train with, that sucks for them. Like, it just does. And that's a big reason why kids come, is they're like, I just want people to train with, because I want to get better. Like, it's hard. I mean, I've been doing workouts by myself for like a decade. It's really hard. And it's not, I mean, it doesn't help that I'm old, but like, it's really hard.
But I feel like there are plenty of kids who do train by themselves and like are amazing, and it helps build character. It helps build some kind of toughness, like hey, you have this big chip on your shoulder. I'm doing this all by myself. So there are plenty of kids who have come from small schools who have done great.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I mean, fundamentally, if you had, if you were a 153 guy, and you could say, well, I could either train with these other 152 guys over here, or I could train by myself.
So I think where the rub is with all this is, real quick, Dave, the rub with all this is when you're talking about a lot of the specialized events where the coaches are sparse, right? Your pole vault, your throws, probably high jump, like your field events.
That's different.
I feel like the clubs are solid options, really, because you guys can offer those expertise that you might get one or two great throwing coaches, great jumping coaches, but it's less because, like you said, either they were sprinters or they were a hurdler, they were a distance runner, and they end up being head coaches, and maybe they get someone that knows. I think where the real grind comes between the high school and the club is when you are going into that distance realm. You are going into that sprints realm where I feel most coaches feel like they are competent, right? In distance and in sprints. And now my kid, who maybe is the star of my team, came to me as a freshman and junior. I thought we were going to be, coach him up. And now as a junior, they're like, coach, I'm going to go train. Thanks for everything you've done so far. But on the hard days, I'm going to go with this club. And I think, like Dave said, I think there's a little bit of pride. So you, as the director of Garden State Track Club, do you have any contact with these coaches for the kids that come to you? And especially say it's a kid that comes from a really good program, the coach, they're a really good coach, and they are good at specifically what this kid is coming to you for. Are there times where you maybe either call up the coach and say, is there a situation that I need to know about that this kid's coming to me? Because I feel like if there's better communication between the clubs and the public coaches, I think that could definitely soften and help. Well, yeah, you're going to have some coaches that'll hang up the phone and say, kick rocks, right? You're going to have those coaches that have those. But I feel like if there's just more communication as to why this kid is here, what they want, and can we figure out something together? And I get it. You want to make money in the clubs too. You're a business. That is part of it. And you need to get people to come in and keep on training with you.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I
Nothing
think
wrong with that.
no, there isn't. But listen, if you're doing the job and you're getting the results, so you do deserve people to be in your club. I'm not saying
No,
you
he
do
deserves
not.
credit. Like what you
Hell
put
yeah, you're a
together,
fantastic coach. Your program's great.
kids who go to you
Get better.
run very well. There's no debate that what you guys offer is an awesome
So I
product.
guess my double question is, have you had those kids that come in, and if you know the coach is a great coach, do you kind of get in touch? What is your relationship with these public school, even private school, the coaches in the high school level?
Yeah, no, these are all great questions. Let me start by saying, I don't think I've ever met a teenager who wants to walk away or wants to distance themselves from their high school team. I don't think I've ever met one.
No, it's tough because you got to walk in those halls again at school every single day.
You've got friends,
Yep.
you've got relationships,
Of course.
you've got teachers, right? Did I say something to Dave? Did I insult him?
Oh no, he probably has to go do something off screen. That is common on the podcast, where if we have to go do something off screen, we'll just quickly throw that on.
I was like, have a good night.
You scared Dave off.
Yeah. So, to be fair, it's really, really hard. And I think teenagers, again, like distance runners who are 4.0 students, they're goody two shoes. They don't want to burn any bridges. Like these are very unusual circumstances where a kid says, you know what, there's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't do this, but I need to start thinking about me. Like, you know what I mean? So to me, the underpinning of this whole conversation is it's not easy for a high school kid to do it. So I think if it's worth really underpinning this and really highlighting this part is like, I think it says more about what's going on somewhere else versus clubs or me or whatever, when a kid says, I can't do this anymore. I mean, there's been a couple girls, like the coaches make them cry and they're like, I just can't, this is supposed to be the fun part and it's not any fun anymore, So to me, it's a very serious issue of like, kids are only do this. I mean, this is the nuclear option. There's no doubt about it. And so to your question about the conversation. So I like to encourage kids and families to talk with coaches. Like I think that is the most important part of the whole thing here. Have I gotten involved? Of course. Have I had conversations? Of course. But I'm not like a mafia boss running around and calling people and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. I mean,
that'd be awesome though. You know how many great stories there will be is like Chuck called me again and was like, if you don't make him do this workout, then I promise you,
you're going to see what the fish
he needs to run a fartlek tomorrow. I don't care what your distance run says.
I mean, again, like a bad business model, right? A very bad business model. But to what I always push families on is to me, the silver lining here is it's a tough skill to learn how to lobby for yourself, right? Like we've all sat in front of a boss or in front of an older
adults don't know how to do that still.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to find a professional way to advocate for your best needs. So I always tell families like, look, this is going to be tough, but I think in the long run, like your kid's going to get a lot of benefit out of like learning how to sit across from an adult and say like, look, I've got some needs here that I need to fulfill. And here's one option that I have to do that. Right. Dave, we were just really fast, Dave, I was also just highlighting the fact that, this really is like the nuclear option when kids, like no kid.
Correct. Right.
Like, I can't wait to leave my team.
No, I get that. I mean, listen, it's no kid who is happy and running well is going to even call you. Right.
Exactly.
Like they're not going to call you. So I get why they do it. I guess my whole thing is like they're doing both at the same time and like really running races for your high school, but not doing any workouts there. Like you're not with your teammates. Like, so why would I, as a coach, I would rather go with the kids who are there every day, you know, that are working in the same. But I have a question that I have here. Is there a trend on the type of school that you get? Like, is it usually smaller schools? Is it usually larger schools? Is it?
Well, I want to go back to your point really fast. And then
Sure, go ahead.
So I totally hear that. And again, I was a head coach in Oregon. I was a head coach in California. I was a head coach at San Francisco State for a little while. I coached in New Jersey. So I totally hear that. Like, it's not like I don't understand that.
Sure.
But I will say that if there's a coach out there that claims that they don't make all types of bargains and deals with kids who like have some soccer tournament or they have some music class, it's like that was one of the reasons why I just couldn't do high school anymore. It's like I just felt like I was playing let's make a deal every day at practice, and you know, that sort of flexibility. I mean, I think the coaches that say have that hard line, like I think you lose a lot of good kids because, you know, God forbid they play soccer once a week.
You have to be flexible. Like I have kids who are like, I'm going to come at 3:30 because I have drama after school. Okay.
Right. Like if they've got a job, like you're going to really cut that kid. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I understand your point, but I also feel like it would be disingenuous for any high school coach to pretend like they're not wheeling deals with kids because that's the right thing to do. Quite honestly, it's the right thing to do. Right. So anyways, your question about trends or
yeah, like is there like do you like, I would imagine you're not getting many kids from like CBA, Union Catholic. Like, is there like a type, you don't have to mention schools, but is there like a type of school? Like, is it usually smaller schools, like you said, where they have one good stud who has nobody to work with? Like, is that more of the type of kids, or do you get kids from everywhere?
It's a good question. It's true. Like, I've never had a Westfield kid email us ever. Right.
Tefalski, you're safe for now.
You know what, actually, I will say this. A very long time ago, a random kid from Westfield emailed us and I forwarded to Chris and I said, hey, who's this? She goes to Westfield. And I remember this was like 12 years ago, but I remember he wrote like, oh, she's really into band and it's like after school or something. So this would be perfect for her. Like I remember there was but you know, I think by and large, it's kids who maybe have a parent who knows a little something about the sport.
That happens often.
That's common. Like, you know, if you've got some history in track and if your kid runs nothing but doing, like if they're racing 8 times a week, like there's you know that's maybe not the right thing to do, right? So that's certainly a thing. I think smaller schools, it tends to happen a little bit more. Like Rebecca,
because a lot of times the coaches are just there and they're collecting a stipend. Like we can be quite honest. A lot of times there's just a coach that maybe ran a little in high school and then it's like, okay, I guess I can figure it out.
There's some great small school coaches though.
Well, there's great.
Chuck came from one of the best Group 1 schools in the state year after year after year. I mean,
I think we're blessed in Jersey to have a good group of coaches in the state overall, but there's always,
of course, there is
always exceptions. Yeah,
no, which is why I said like Chuck's club has a purpose. There are kids who will go there. You know, like I said, my only issue is the doing both. But if that's okay with the coach, then who am I to say what's good for one coach at any other program? You know, like that's not my place to say, you know. All right. So yeah, because I was gonna say like I wouldn't see many of these of the established programs reaching out.
Well, you know, so I would say the smaller schools, you know, private schools oftentimes don't have, you know, the depth and the breadth that a public school may have.
Yeah.
And you know, there are a lot of kids that like they fall through the cracks. And you know, it's a bigger school and they're not getting much attention and they want more attention, quite honestly. And maybe they're not, you know, going to be all state, but I mean, I helped Will Rivera for a year or two at South Brunswick and I remember coaching that sprint group. And my goodness, I mean, it was like 80 kids, just the sprinters.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate how like, you know, I didn't even know half the kids' names. You know, we were just like, so that's a tough spot to be in when you're a kid and you want to get better and you feel like, hey, this dude doesn't even know my name, right?
Can be. So Coach Torchia coming in saying, "Where's Alex tonight? Will he be joining us? Who is this guy in the black shirt sitting in for him?"
Because
It is I, just without the luscious locks. And Coach is going to be coming on the show soon. So
yes, he is.
excited for that. We finally got Coach Torchia to come on. So here's a question for you. So I always knew Garden State Track Club for a long time. I believe my buddy from Marist, Will Griffin, at one point ran for you guys. Will was amazing.
Good.
Great runner at Marist and just a great guy in general. When you were initially the post-collegiate club, like most normal clubs, a lot of post-collegiate. When you decided to start the emerging elite and dipping into the high school area, did you know all these arrows were going to be coming at you from being a high school coach in your own time and things like that? Did you know that this was going to be something that was going to, push a little buttons of people, or did you just not care? It seems like your whole goal, which I enjoy, is to help kids, to make kids have a better opportunity, especially if they want to go post high school, to give them that chance, which I think is an admirable goal. I love that. But did you know that you'd be getting blowback from having the emerging elite group?
So to answer that question would probably just require 30 seconds of the context of how it started. The junior elite program basically started during COVID. Basically,
makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yep. Cameron Winterston, as you might remember her name.
Yes.
I mean, look, Ridgewood, like every other school district, they just stopped. They just didn't have anything. So when her dad came to me, and Dave, I don't know if you know this, but I knew Kevin in high school. Kevin went to Rutgers. He was on the crew team and he was on the basketball team. Nice. So, they were basically like, hey, we need something because we got nothing. Oh, and you know who else was in that same boat was Ben Godish from Highland Park.
Okay. Yeah, Ben. Yep.
I had stopped coaching in Highland Park then, but I had known the family. I coached his older sister, Bella, who ran at Rutgers. And Highland Park, just like they weren't allowed to do anything. So the next thing you know, people are like, hey, can you coach my kid? And it went well. Like Cameron ran 4:43. I mean, she's the first high school girl in New Jersey history to break 2:08 and 4:45. And Annie Murray ran 2:08. She was struggling to break 2:20 for years. And to me, it wasn't necessarily like I'm going to do this and we're going to undermine. Like that wasn't it. It was like
there was a need at that time.
There was a need at the time.
Yep.
Things went well, and I think what that did was it opened doors to people who really didn't think about that as being a viable option. I hope that all adults can appreciate the fact that, like, if you're with another adult and it's going really well, like, and you really like the guy or you really like the setup, like, why go back? Like, why do anything different? So that was really how it started. And I interact with a lot of high school coaches, like with our post spring meets and our indoor meets. And I think that my relationship with all the ones that I know is very positive. And I think that the coaches who understand the program are like, hey, I get it. It's been my experience that it's the people that maybe really don't know me or don't, haven't made the effort to really like understand. I mean, I'll really fast. I'll give you an example. There's a coach in Middlesex County who's made some comments on posts, and finally I just sent him something on Facebook. Say, hey, let's just talk. Let's just talk. This was like a couple months ago, and we talked for 20 minutes. And basically, my argument was like, what do we do for the kid that doesn't have a team, doesn't have a coach, doesn't have teammates? What do we do?
And that's where I agree with you. I agree with you that, and for me, and that's where I see like the place for clubs are those places where they don't have a team, or again, the coach is lacking, right? Like, okay, yeah, the kid should go to a club. I just think that you do have some coaches who are possibly nervous that a freshman who might be good, but they're a good team, right? And that freshman is a good freshman, but there are juniors and seniors ahead of them, and they're not getting that opportunity to go race in some of these big meets because they have some great seniors ahead of them. They are just running relays and some individuals, but mostly relays, because they can be a really good part of the relay. They're just not going to jump into those big meets because those other kids are ahead of them. And now that kid is like, well, I see what's going on at Garden State. Screw this. I'm gone. And now how do you team build? Right. So I think that is just a little bit of like a fear of some of the coaches of better programs that you build by getting these kids to maybe running those relays with those seniors and juniors to experience that. And they get character and they might not get the individual chances at the state meets, even though their times would get them there. There's only 3 slots, right? So I feel like that is definitely some trepidation in going, now they have the option at Garden State, which is great. But at the same time, it's like, how am I going to continue to build my team if kids are just going to go there? And, I think that's just a tough spot for a coach.
Well, I think I genuinely think it goes back to the notion of the nuclear option, right? Like if a kid feels connected to an adult, they're not going anywhere. And I'm sure that between the two of you guys, you've built relationships with your kids, and regardless of how good or slow or old they are, they're not going anywhere.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
It really is the nuclear option when a kid says, hey, this coach is using me as a pawn. This coach is making me cry. You'd be surprised. And I'm not saying that that's always the case. I'm definitely not saying that. And again, I'm not.
Listen, we have talked about the fact that there are definitely bad coaches, and even though they know track and field, they're just not good coaches. Just because you know the sport, and this is all sports, just because you know the sport doesn't mean you can coach it, right? It's a special type of person that can actually coach and bring out the best in individuals. So 100%.
What do you say to the argument, where someone's like, well, like they go, and not just your club, but they go to a club in middle school, they have success, and they just never give their high school team a shot. Like that coach never gets a chance to coach that stud kid who's from their town, because they get involved in a club early and they never even make it to the high school.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but I just feel like we live in a world where like we don't own these kids.
Oh, true.
Like we don't. I mean, if these family, these kids and their families, like they make decisions on all sorts of things, and sometimes it's financial, right? Sometimes it's social or like I don't know. I mean, I feel like as coaches, it's our responsibility to just whoever shows up, we just love them and we treat them the best that we can. And if a kid says, "Hey, I want to leave this team because I want to pursue ballet," like, what are we going to hold a? It's like these things happen, and
it's different when they leave for like something else. They leave for like a completely different sport. I think then you're like, all right, well, there's nothing that I can really do. They don't like the sport anymore. They want to do something else. But when they leave to do something else that's in the same realm, I think because we public coaches, we believe in ourselves. We believe that we can give them the best chance. And sometimes when you don't, like, I'm in Manasquan, right? So I lose a ton of kids to, there's so many schools in my area.
You have a J for a track.
Well, that's but it sucks sometimes. You're like, because small town, you hear, oh, there's this great kid in 7th grade, they're gonna be coming here, and then you never get a chance to coach that kid because they get souped up by a club when they're young. And then I'm not saying you, but there are some club coaches out there who kind of tell kids to go to certain places, go to this high school because that they're friends with that coach. So I feel like there is some of that going on. And yes, like we do have pride in ourselves as public coaches, and we feel that we can give them the best chance. And it's frustrating when we don't get that opportunity because of nothing that we've even done.
Fair point. So two thoughts on that. One, I used to teach English for 15 years, and I don't think I was very good at it, but I did it for 15 years. And, kids left my class all the time because they're like, I'm going to go to a different English teacher. And I don't know. I mean, you're allowed to do that, right?
But those kids had a chance to at least meet you and see what your class was like. Like I'm saying, like those kids who start in middle school and don't ever come to high school, they don't even know if they would gel with the coach. They don't even get a chance.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm just saying that, like, you might be the best person out there, but like, if for whatever, there's a lot of kids that we just don't vibe with, and there's just a better place for them than so be it, right? I don't know. But what's interesting to me, and I want to be really careful how I say this, but
just be brash and mean. We're here for that.
No, it's, all 11 followers of this channel here. I don't want.
Hell yeah. 11 loyal.
I understand the questions about club. I do.
Sure.
But it actually kind of blows my mind that there's not more, and maybe there is, again, like these are like the little things that I'm just not, but like, I'm actually surprised that there's not more trepidation around the fact that like, there's a couple private schools that are basically just all-star teams.
Oh, believe me, there is. Oh, believe me, there is. Okay, like
there are coaches who have been arms and that. But I think the
believe me, the
difference is that they're at least running for a high school. Like they're competing for a school together.
Dave,
like,
I do disagree with that. I think that
I'm telling you because it's not kids from all different areas. Like they're all on one team. They're all compete for the same team. They all wear the same uniform all the time.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if we're talking about 100 kids in New Jersey who decide that I'm not going to run for my local high school team, I feel like 98 of them are going to private schools and 2 of them are going to go to a club. But there seems to be more, or anyway, in this conversation.
Yeah, I just think the most valid point from Dave is kind of like the team aspect, right? You're trying to team build as a coach and you're trying to get that camaraderie because if you're going for something and then potentially your best kid or one of your better kids goes to club and they only see them every once in a while, I can understand how a public school coach could look at that and go, I'm trying to build my team, but then one of my leaders is not here all the time. How am I supposed to, lie on them? And then also, how is that kid going to trust me when I'm putting them into races, right? Like,
or how is that kid going to walk in and lead? Like what kid would be like, I'm not listening to him. You're not here.
I think the relationship with the kid, it's like, it's got to be a little strained at that point. And I think that's got to be the tough part for the coach.
Well, like we said, like Chuck's not getting kids who are happy. So there is a need. And I understand, it's, and we could debate all night. And I'm grateful Chuck is
hell yeah
on here because, it's hard when you see all these posts on Facebook. Like, no, you're right. Let's just talk. Let's have a debate, a civil debate. And I think that this is awesome because I am seeing like some of the things that you're saying. I am seeing more of your side about it. It just, to me, it boils down to the ability of the high school coach and like how a kid, like you're right. It's all about how that kid feels and the perception of the program and the coach. I think it's just, from a high school, kind of what Alex said, like it's frustrating when like you're trying to build and then these kids aren't there for whatever reason. I mean, listen, I lose a lot of kids, like I said, to private schools, there's a bunch in my area. It sucks. But
Dave complains about it. Don't worry. He's texting me complaining about every single one that he knows. He's looking at XC.
It's not complaining.
He's looking at the XC results going, I could have been here.
I don't coach XC. So that's
Dave, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, but when I worked in Castlemont High School in East Oakland, I used to coach the soccer team in the fall and then the track in the spring. And this happened a lot in Oakland. Like, you knew who the good soccer players were. Well, I would find out from my players. Man, I spent too many hours going to random soccer fields in the middle of East Oakland, which I certainly wouldn't do anymore. It wasn't the safest thing in the world, but like I was trying to recruit kids when they were like in 7th and 8th grade. Like I was like, hey, come to Castlemont, get to know me. Like I would, talk to the parents. I'm not saying that you should be running around, but I do know that there are coaches that do that. Like,
sure,
I know it because I've heard plenty of stories. So,
there are a lot.
Look, at the end of the day, I really think it's about relationships with kids. And if a kid feels like they've got a good relationship with their high school coach, they're going to run through a brick wall. And to your point, Dave, that's what I had him touching. Like, everybody loved Holleran. We all ran through walls for him. And I felt very lucky. But at the same time, I also remember running against New Brunswick in dual meets. And like, they didn't have that.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so some people go to New Brunswick. This was the 90s. They've actually gotten a good bit better. They've gotten
really good.
thanks to a former Garden State athlete, by the way, Ricky Garcia, did a great job for years. But I mean, some folks are going to be in a program like that, and some kids are going to be in a program like Metuchen. And I was lucky. You Tom's River guys were lucky. I can't speak to Manchester.
We have a great tradition. Dave was a coach, so it tells you everything you need to know. I'm kidding. No, we have a good tradition. We're small, but we're proud.
Small but strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, look, I think that's it. Like, I don't think that kids are going to walk away from adults who they have strong relationships with. And this isn't a knock. It's not a knock on any adults at all. But like, kids will feel disconnected for a lot of different ways,
sure,
for a lot of different reasons. And sometimes it's not because of the fault of any adult. But, I just don't think that we own these kids. And if kids want to pursue soccer or this or that or it's the world we live in. It really is.
I want to switch gears before we get out of here because you are a fantastic runner currently in your own right. But I want to thank you for that conversation about clubs and stuff and relays where I don't know if we changed minds, but I absolutely love the fact that you were willing to come on here.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Listen, it was no secret that we were critical of you in the post in the first one. We wrote a nice long piece and, we invited you on here after, but that's the beauty of, and I think this will help also with the growth of the sport, right? Because now maybe someone that is sitting there going, oh, Chuck's a jerk and this and that can listen to this and go,
he's really a jerk.
I might not agree with the club, but his heart's in the right place. So I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that will be a different that they can look at you and be like, well, I might still not like the club system. Chuck's not a bad guy. And I think that can go far in terms of building those relationships and maybe helping out, your club a little more. Maybe some more coaches going, hey, listen, I have a kid that I can't do much with. I think he has potential, but again, I have 80 kids. I have a kid that I think you might be great with. And there could be that right there. But I want to switch gears and talk about you because 415 last year in the 15 at age 48, 202. Holy crap, dude. So what are you eating? Like that is awesome. So you did that over
Healthy
at the
food.
Masters World Champs. So where were the Masters World Champs last year? It's freaking awesome.
So every year it's in this like tropical place that is super exciting to go to. One year it was in Poland, one year it was in Sweden. Last year was in Gainesville, Florida. So I can't really report that it was a sexy locale. But yeah, the Indoor World Champs was at Gainesville, which is an awesome facility.
Yeah, that's great. So is that another reason why you started the club? So you have a bunch of people to train with as well, so that you can constantly train. And listen, that is the biggest cheat code ever. And especially as you get older and the elites get better, it's like, let me get these good high school kids. I can still train with them. Is that like the secrets? Is that really why you have the club?
Well, to be fair, when I moved back to New Jersey from California in 2010, I did start it because in California, everyone's in a club. Like if you run 10 miles,
I've said that we need more clubs, running clubs in general.
I mean, it's just, I was running for West Valley and I met a lot of good friends. I met a couple of women that I dated. I mean, it was just like, it was my community. And I came to New Jersey and I was like, there's
Shore AC and there's NJNC. NJNY was. Yeah, NJNY was, and that's about it, really.
And a lot of it is just kind of geared towards
youth kids
and
or youth. There's a lot of youth running kids like up until 8th grade, and then they all stop.
Right. Yeah. So really, to be fair, it was to kind of be like, I want to build a community of post-college runners. But I mentioned this earlier. I don't train with anybody. It's really, really hard. So I wish that I could just, but the way my line of work is like, I'm just doing like, I just train at the most random times. And, what sort of normal adult or human is like free at 12:30 on a Tuesday afternoon or whatever,
So you have a wide range of ages with your athletes, right? Like, what's the youngest you guys go to at Garden State?
So you don't want to talk about me anymore? Is that it?
No, I'm curious. Like, I'm curious about you a little more in terms of coaching because I find what you do, it's got to be tough. So what's the youngest you guys do?
So a couple years ago, so I was in public education for 22 years, and the coaching really the club just took off during COVID, and my wife finally just sat me down and was like, "Look, you could be a full-time, like I was a literacy coach, so I was like a quasi administrator at Franklin. You could either do that or you could do this club thing, but you
can't do both, right?
You do both. So like,
I want to see you every once in a while.
Like, we are married. I want to see you at some point. So
too much, not enough. Too much, yeah. Don't do that, but a little bit.
Although To be fair, she'd probably be better off never seeing me. But
I think we all feel the
I
same
think all
way.
of our wives
They're
would-
much
Right.
better off without us.
Right. So like any normal, rational adult, I picked the club, obviously. Why stay in a stable job?
I would have too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many benefits. I'm gonna start a club.
Yeah. There's so many great. So one of the things that I started building out once I did this full time in 2023 was developing a more robust youth program.
Nice.
So we've got 4 different youth training enclaves, and we have Morristown, South Orange, Maplewood, Bergen County, and one in Central Jersey. So we've got in like Edison, Highland Park. So there's 4. So this youngest age group is 6 to 7. So I guess
That's awesome.
6-year-olds, and then we've got old guys like me and you guys, masters runners, who will compete, in old man events. So
what is that like, having to map out workouts and things? Obviously you have other coaches there with you as well, but that has to be challenging when you're going from like a young group to an elite middle group, and then also the adults. Like,
Well, I would think he
that's
probably
gotta be.
like these coaches only coach the younger kids, and then these kids coach right, or do you guys all coach everybody?
So right now I coach everybody, which is probably not the best business model. But it's like, I don't know. Families are like, well, who's this random dad? I don't. So I think that's going to evolve a little bit. But I mean, look, again, I was in public education for 22 years. Like, working with kids is not anything new to me. So I don't think I'm great with the younger kids. I don't think I'm as patient as an elementary school teacher. I'm like, hey, no crying in track. Let's go. Like, no more 200s. So I'm probably a little bit more effective with older kids. But the nice thing is, like, there's all this diversity. Like, we've got, some of our training groups, like, you've got really good middle school kids, elite high school kids, college kids, and then post-college kids. Like, they're all training together.
I mean, your post-college group is amazing right now. Like, I've seen some of the results on the track, especially with some of your ladies. You guys are crushing it right now. Like, I don't know if it's recently that you guys have gotten more hot. Some of the athletes that you have right now going are really competing at a freaking high level. Congrats to that. They're running awesome.
Thank you.
I also think what's unique too is that, like, there's a lot of clubs out there that specialize, like, we're a distance club. Like, you guys kind of offer everything. There are, like, most of your youth running is 95% distance based, I would say.
Yeah. We have a model, I hope, that is going to change the sport, because I really think it needs to change. So our model is, we raise money and then we support athletes. That's what we do. Like, at this point, we're a professional track team that just has various other branches to it. So, like,
kind of like soccer, like how they have their youth academies and stuff. You have your Garden State pro team, and then there's your youth academy underneath you.
Right. So, like, when athletes, so I'm the meet director of 2 meets at the Armory, 1 meet at Ocean Breeze. I don't take a penny of that. It all goes, which is a point of contention with my wife, but it all goes to this pot that supports our pro athletes. So
if someone has to, like, fly out somewhere or get a hotel or something like that, you guys can help. All right, cool.
Yeah, we have 7 athletes down at the Tom Jones Invitational down in Gainesville, Florida right now.
Awesome.
We pay for their flights, we pay for their hotel, and does it make a big difference? I mean, look, when you're 23 and you're just got a part-time job and you're trying to make it. I mean, Brian Faust, a couple years ago, nobody knew who he was, and he won the U.S. title a couple years. Like, we paid for all that stuff. I mean, and I'm not saying that. I mean, obviously he's a talented guy and he's a great dude and all that.
But not having to worry about a flight is huge, or where I'm going to stay is huge. Focus on the race.
We've had pros on our show who have to Uber, who have to work 3 jobs because there's not money in this sport.
You have to deal with the stupid World Athletics point system too, with these pros trying to figure out where this is. Your race going to count as much here as if we can get you into there?
It's a silver race.
My God.
I mean, look, that stuff has been evolving. A lot the last 5 years in it, and I don't think anybody really understands it. But but it's true. Like, either you're gonna join a club like Garden State and get some support, or that $500 flight is like a week of work or 4 or 5 days of work. And
if you don't score well, you don't make money at that meet. Now it's a wash. Like if you have a bad meet, you don't get paid well at that meet.
You lose money.
It sucks.
I mean, there's very few meets that have paydays. I mean, there's a couple of them, but you know, like especially right now, like the Tom Jones meet is a college meet and it just has some pro elite races in it or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's gotten to a point where we have to be very careful about who we sign because there's so much need, and like we just can't take everybody on. And I try to write an email to everyone explaining like, you know, our situation. But I mean, look, you know, we just signed a gal from North Dakota, which seems really random, but she's in our opinion, I think she's got a lot of upside. She's for the context of who she is, I think she's a lot more than a 53-second girl. We'll see. She's coming to Penn Relays next weekend.
Nice.
So it's, you know, it's tricky. It's layered and complicated, but like all the money from the youth program goes to this fund. Every penny that we make from these meets, like the spring, and it all goes to this. So when you say, well, you guys are doing great. Well, that's because we have the resources to bring on awesome people. And I mean, look, they're a great group of folks, and we're very careful about, you know, I mean, look, it just takes one ego. It just takes one, you know, bad apple to kind of ruin.
Character matters. Character matters a lot when you're dealing with, again, and the thing is too, like track and field, you know, we talk about whether it's team or whether it's individual. When you get to a high level,
at that point,
all alphas. They're all alphas there. You're dealing with a group of alphas, because if they are not on the track, in the pit, you know, in the ring, and their goal at that point isn't world champion, Olympic champion, then what are they doing? Right? Like that. So you're dealing with a whole bunch of alphas, and how do I take these alphas and have them buy in and work together at times? Like it's not easy.
You're right. I mean, look, obviously there's a lot of challenges to coach in high school. Like you've got freshmen that don't know what they're doing and seniors going to Division I, and they're all on the track at the same time. Yeah. So we all have
seniors that think they know what they're doing, but they still have no idea how to race. They just run well by accident, and they got
right. Yeah. But you know, I try to make it a point. I mean, I don't like to talk about money, but I try to make it a point to the coaches who do come to our events. Try to make it a point that they know that this money, like their entry fees are being reinvested into the sport. Like most meet directors are taking a big payday, and a lot of those meet directors are making really small medals. They're not doing, they're not doing the bells and whistles like bibs and all the things that we like to do, music and DJing. Like, you know, I think that's great for the sport, and I think it's what makes kids excited. But you know, that all that money goes back to our pro athletes, every single penny. Don't ask Leah about it, because she's going to get angry about it. But that's my wife. But so it's a great model, and I really hope that more clubs do it, really, because it's just it's a no-brainer to me.
And this is what I like to hear, because I think more people do need to hear this side of it. And as much as you don't like to talk money, I think this would endear you more to even those high school coaches that are disgruntled, right? But if they could know that at least, you know, our sport is potentially being furthered by that athlete now paying you to coach them, but that money is going into this pro program, right? And it's helping these pros. And as we all know, there's a problem with the pro system in track and field. Our pros are fake pros. They should be millionaires at a minimum, at least living comfortably, being the best athletes on the planet. Yet they are worried about flights. They're worried about meet entries. They're worried about hotels. Like, they should not be worried about any of that if they're pros. But you're doing at least a small step, providing them training and providing them transportation and a place to stay while they can focus on doing as good as they can. And that's huge in this sport.
Yeah, because I think I was reading the top 1 or 2% make about 80% of all the money in our sport. You know, like Noah's fine, Sydney's fine, but then you have other people who make the Olympics and are having to work 2 or 3. Like, we had a couple of guests on who were like driving Uber, you know, because they just can't make it. It's crazy.
They had an empty refrigerator at the end of the show. One of them showed us that they were eating ice chips because they were working everything just to make sure that they could pay their coach and their rent. Like,
crazy.
And they were going to USATFs and were potentially one of the Olympic choices. It's crazy.
I mean, our best guy, Brian Faust, again, he won the 400 US title a couple years
Brian's
ago.
awesome.
And then last year, he was second at the world champs in the 400, and he won a gold medal in the 4x4.
Yep.
You know, like how does this guy not get signed? But, you know, one of the biggest changes I've seen at the level, like in the world that I'm living in here is 15 years ago, there was a lot more money in the sport. Like you saw a lot more people being like having.
ESPN used to have a race every Saturday in the morning on. ESPN used to cover the events.
Yeah. And you know, you look at like a pro long jump meet and every single athlete's unattached now. Like there's not a single athlete, well, unless they're jumping for us, but like, you know, no one wants to invest money, especially in field events. I mean, basically if you're miling up, you have a bit of a shot, but outside of that, it's really, it's a different world. It's really sad.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that these high school kids are so damn fast now, taking away all these spots from all these pros. It's crazy.
And we didn't even get into the NIL and what the NIL is doing to the sport. I could imagine that you are facing NIL questions all the time with what you're doing, dealing with high school and college kids and stuff like that.
Well, you know, we have, I mean, we benefited from COVID, and our club is benefiting from NIL too. Sure. I mean, there's a lot of kids that are trying to get onto the Rutgers team. They can't. So they're training with us because there's no other place to go, right?
Is there any talk with you guys potentially signing NIL athletes at some point? Because you are a club, you're an outside entity that you could potentially, obviously that would take financial backing more to do it, right? But is that something that's in the sphere where you can kind of push the name out there? You know, even just, hey, they're a Garden State, track club NIL athlete, right? That's just in a way advertising a lot of ways. Is there any plan for that at all?
You know, it's funny you mention it because it's something that's come up, sure. and I think our core fundamental pushback on the idea is that is going to undermine high school
100%.
So like anytime I have a conversation with you, I'm like, look, show me a DM where I emailed. So like I don't reach out to people, but if we start shopping around for athletes, like I think that's very different from the model that we have right now. And I very much think that is only going to corrode the system. And it's like a bad business model for us to just be running around undermining. Like that's not what we do. Like we're just here for people that need it or people that want it. And that's it. We're not sending special invites. We're not luring them with money. I don't think that's right.
You're not going to middle schools and be, hey, come run with us. You know, like you're not doing that.
Not doing that.
You're getting kids who choose you.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
100%. Awesome. Yep. Chuck, thank you so much for coming on, man. This was a fantastic show. I hope that you enjoyed it and you didn't feel that we were mean to you. But you are welcome to come back anytime. And next time we'll just talk a little more track, because I did want to talk today real quick before we go. Did you guys see, I don't know if this is real, that the Paris Marathon did away with water cups and we're making athletes stop and carry their own water bottles and have fill stations?
I did not. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that as an organization that puts on a 10-mile race, I mean, I will say that I struggle with the waste that goes into these things. I mean, there's like, and we're not even a big race, and there's just
the cleanup has to suck at the water cup station.
So I can appreciate trying to be a little more environmentally friendly, but that might be an April Fool's thing, man.
I don't know, because the elite athletes, apparently the elites were mad because they would have to stop and fill up their water.
That's like the April Fools. You know, they're gonna have an 800-meter hurdles at the relays.
You were hook, line, and sinker into that day.
I forgot it was April Fool's. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm like, oh wait, it's April 1st. But my first reaction was, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my time. This is almost as dumb as a 300 hurdles. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Don't tell that to California. Don't tell that to California or Oregon. They like the 300.
No, I don't mind it in each state, but the fact that they have it as a pro race now is crazy. Like, who's going to run the 300 hurdles and the 400 hurdles?
That's fair.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
High school, it's been that way forever. Fine.
Fair.
So
fair
everyone, again, I appreciate Chuck. I appreciate you coming on, man. This was
Thank
great.
you
You're always welcome on the show. If you ever want to jump back on, we will be absolutely happy to have you. If anyone is interested, you need to absolutely go over to the website if it wants to show up. There it is. gardenstatetc.org, and you can go there and you can see all their awesome stuff. You can find out about them up here, contact them, and you can just scroll through. And I'm not gonna lie though, I do love the uniforms. The black and yellow, that's fantastic. Even though it's Pittsburgh, but I still like the uniforms.
Well, it's more Wu-Tang than Pittsburgh, but whatever.
I take that. Hell yeah. And I do have to say too that on this show, I am, Dave knows this more than anyone. I love to get swag, so I would happily wear a Garden State Track Club shirt on the show. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. But everyone,
Alex, never too proud to ask.
Hell no, I am a chill and a half, man. Everyone, make sure you go check that out. Go check them out on Instagram at Garden State Track Club, and you can also go, and if you want to see what Chuck himself is up to, you can go on to Chuck Schneekloth and go check him out there. So, Chuck, thanks again for coming on.
Yes.
Really, really appreciate it. It was a fun show, and
it's just always good to have, like, when people might see different things, that I feel like sometimes everyone's first reaction is just yelling and anger. Like, it's great to have a nice civil talk and hear sides and hear other people's points. So thank you very much for coming on. We really, really, really appreciate it.
And now that I know you, next time we can yell at each other. This time we were not. Next time we can yell. No, once again, Chuck, thank you so much.
Nothing.
Everyone, I appreciate everyone out there that watch, wherever you watch from. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, and follow. And go follow us at Talking in Ovals everywhere. We'll be back Monday, actually. And I'm excited for that guest because it is another person with some Rutgers affiliation. So we're going to have a good time doing that. So everyone, that was your little snippet there. So everyone, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. So long, y'all.